Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to take this opportunity to showcase a different helmet. This is the Biker Scout helmet, of course, from Return of the Jedi. So it's commonly known as the Biker Scout or Scout Trooper helmet. As history goes, they started developing the costumes for Return of the Jedi, not in England this time for the Return of the Jedi production. They took a lot of that work in house, and they had a group of people at ILM, Lucasfilm, create the costumes and the helmets, and then they would ship them over to the UK for production, or for in case of the Biker Scouts, it was to I guess Redwood Forests in California, that sort of thing. So Nilo Rodis Jamero at the time, I think it goes by Nilo Rodis now. It was ironic. I actually worked with Nilo Rodis in the game industry for a few years, and he's a super cool guy to work with. He did some of the original concept drawings for the Scout Trooper, and then him and his team at ILM, they called themselves like the Plastic Boys, and they were responsible for sculpting the molds, the vacuum-forming bucks for the helmets and various costume armor parts, and then they would vacuum them sort of next to the model shop at ILM, which was sort of Phil Tippett's area. So as history goes, it was a modeler named Ira Keeler who originally sculpted the majority of the helmet. He sculpted kind of the left and right sides of the helmet. And then he sculpted the visor. The original helmet was actually split down the middle, so it was actually done in half like this. So you had a left half and a right half of the cap and back, which was one piece, and then you had the visor, which was split into a left and right half down the middle, and then the faceplate was a separate piece, and this stuff was the greeblies and the visor. And so you would have this seam running down the middle of the helmet, and they would just glue a strip of plastic underneath, and then they would sort of putty it over, and then they painted the helmets like a really shiny Ferrari white paint color, and that's how the original helmets were done. This one's slightly different. This one's made by a company called Studio Creations, and they've been making armor and helmets and things like that for some time. And this particular one, the dome is one piece and the cap is one piece, and then the visor is all one piece, and the face is its own separate piece. So I guess it's sort of a little bit more simple in that it doesn't have the seam running down the middle. Maybe a little bit more durable for trooping, in that it's probably not going to have any sort of shifts or cause any sort of cracks or things like that. But it's still a really, really nice helmet. And just going over some of the detail areas, these vents are in the screen used helmet are not stickers. They're actually cut out, so you can actually get a bit of air or whatever through them. And there's no mesh or anything covering them. What sometimes they did was they would paint the inside just so that it wasn't white showing up, but they are actual sort of functional vents. The front here in the snout area, this is of course like just an old sink faucet aerator, similar to what the Stormtroopers had. They used the Hovey Pax mic tips, and I think on the Biker Scout it was a full-on sink aerator. And this piece here is actually the engine block from like a scale, Tamiya model Yamaha motorcycle. And they just stuck that on as kind of like a nose greebly detail. One of the most interesting things about this helmet is, of course, is that it actually opens up. So you can actually flip it open. It hinges on these points here, and it opens up like that. Right now I've just got it closing with Velcro. I might use magnets or something later. On the originals there was like a little bump here, and it would actually register and kind of hold it up and click into place. They wanted it to be like this, a little bit more easier for the actors to breathe and that sort of thing when they were on set. On the inside, they used a 3M welding face shield, whatever, mask, protection mask, visor. So it was clickable, it had like an adjustment in the back and a foam front, and then it was just riveted in place. This particular one is also a 3M welder's visor interior harness. It's not the exact same one, but it's pretty close. So yeah, Biker Scout's one of my favorite characters. I really enjoyed building this costume. And in particular, a lot of the decals, I ended up actually hand cutting a lot of these and putting them on. And then, of course, I did a lot of weathering. So a lot of this was mostly airbrush with acrylics, mixture of about, a half and half burnt umber and black, lightly misted over, and then a lot of sort of, scuffing with a rag to kind of add some texture and detail. But it's pretty similar to how the originals were done. A lot of people sort of use spray paints and they kind of spray bomb it, but with black, and it's a little bit too harsh, a little bit too contrasty. So I did a little bit of research and found out that in the originals they actually airbrushed them. So that's exactly what I did too. So one of my favorite characters from the original trilogy, and definitely one of my favorite costumes as well too. So hope you enjoyed this little helmet showcase. Thanks for tuning in.